G'day my friends, welcome. This is Covey. You just entered the crazy ass Newfie channel. Today we're going to talk about water memory, ice tray spikes, and cold fusion becoming quantum curiosities. For those of you who have not heard of Masaru Emoto, he's a Japanese author and entrepreneur, best known for his claims that human consciousness has an effect on molecular structure of water. Initially, he believed that water takes on a resonance of energy, which can be directed at it, and that polluted water can be restored through prayer and positive visualization. His fame came from the Rice Experiment, which is shown here.
Dr. Emoto has conducted another interesting experiment. He placed rice into 3 glass beakers and covered it with water. And then every day for a month, he said, "Thank you" to one beaker, "You're an idiot" to the second, and the third one he completely ignored. After 1 month, the rice that had been thanked began to ferment, giving off a strong, pleasant aroma. The rice in the second beaker turned black, and the rice that was ignored began to rot. Dr. Emoto thinks that this experiment provides an important lesson, especially with regard to how we treat children. We should take care of them, give them attention, and converse with them. Indifference does the greatest harm.
That was a short piece showing his small test to show all of our individual consciousness does affect the structure of water, showing we all have profound connection to the substance and everything in our bodies, including ourselves. Love is being found beneficial, but can hate cause physical harm to a living being? This simple test has been duplicated over and over again and again, including by myself, which is why I continued in belief that love is an incredible motivator. I expanded my own research by focusing that love into other living things to see results, and in doing, I was fortunate to see many curious effects. This video ahead is of me blessing with focused emotion of great love from my thoughts of our 13 loved grandchildren on the water in my ice tray. Well, from what I have found, I can duplicate this with mere intention. From the research I have done, what I see is possible to replicate, but it is elusive, even at the perfect optimal setting for stalagmites, or ice cube tray icicles, better being known as, when it is being completed by researchers in labs. Within the researchers' tests, it has been shown that fortunate if they can give under optimal situations, maybe half of the time being able to duplicate and replicate this with distilled water. I, in the videos ahead you will see, am not using distilled water but mere filtration system water, which still had impurities within, and still I was able to achieve all the time whenever the focus of love emotion was put in. When I stopped blessing, the icicles stopped showing. When I blessed, the icicles appeared. The short explanation is, as the ice freezes fast under super cold conditions, the surface can get covered except for a small hole. Water expands when it freezes. As the freezing continues, the expanding ice under the surface forces the remaining water up through the hole, and it freezes around the edges, forming a hollow spike. Eventually, the whole thing freezes, and the spike is left. They are also found when distilled water is frozen in ordinary household ice cube trays. This is a phenomenon that's been observed and recorded for nearly a century, but its causes remain poorly understood.
Well, this one here is just enormous. It's still in the process of growing, I believe. Biggest one I've had. It is enormous inside. Hey, I better get this back in here before it can start to melt. I can still see water inside it. It is more footage of the ice cubes. I know that I'm sad and a little, well, excited because it's awesome because there's so many of them. But you see this one here? This one was about this long and it got snapped off. And this one here, it's just developed a little bit. You can see this one tried to develop too. And this one. I mean, I was close to having an explosion of stalactites or stalagmites, is it? I think it's stalagmite, but still very. I just put this in the water, and this new one, not even an hour ago, I think, maybe perhaps less. Look at how clear the water is. Now this was blessed, but this is tap water. And I try very hard, and you can see some formations, if I can get you to see a little bit of a lift going on there. So they were trying, you know, you can see it, trying to go upwards. But look at how cloudy and dark and dirty. Look at how clean and beautiful. This is actually water from Giant Tiger across just the way here. Just thought I'd do a quick thing again with the video. Quite interesting. There was 4 of them, that stalactite, but it was a couple days ago even. And I put it off and put it off. So if I'd quickly do something, maybe a picture in the video. Yeah, this is probably going to get destroyed. It's coming out of the freezer. Beautiful they look. But I thought that was cool, that one there. Like, look at the thickness of that sucker, man. Anyway, let's take a picture. And this is my miraculousness. This is my gift. I love it, man. This is what I'm talking about, you know? This is it. Oh, you're already melting. You were way taller than that. But look at this. This is God. Thank you, almighty blessings and everything else I could put into this makes my day, makes me feel wonderful. God bless and thank you, God. I'm amazed, because to other people it's just ice formations poking up. Thank you so much for showing me, whomever, whatever consciousness is allowing this. God bless. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm gonna take a picture. Check it out, eh? Look at the freaking size of that. Is that awesome or what, man? That is so cool. What a blessing that is. The icicles are talking. The ice, the water. The water is having a few words with me. And I don't speak it. And I just think this is amazing. I don't know what kind of response or why it is that I'm getting this. But it is. As the experiment has consistence of, I'll give you the date today. It is December 7th or 8th. I think it's the 7th. And another day goes by, and I get a visitation of these wonderful ice formations. Look at that. Look at the bloody size of that. Holy. Okay. Well, I need ice. I'm going to save that. I'm going to use the other one. In this tray, beautiful, crystal clear. Okay, you can see one of them was starting. We had a lift off, but then it stalled out. Here too, I don't know if you can see where my finger is. Little kind of pimple started like it was gonna, and then it stalled out. Maybe I didn't concentrate enough love, put enough energy, emotional energy, into the water. Okay, so here's one. If you can see, it's pretty cool. And the clarity is pretty nice, as you can see. Not a lot of contaminants, I don't know what you would call it. And then I can see one started here. And then this big beautiful one. So, pretty cool, I have to say. And all this during the very stressful time, still managed to be able to. Pretty cool, eh? Look at that, eh? Very clear looking through, eh? As you can see. Hey! So, this is my continuation. I already skipped a couple of trays that had this awesomeness, but I thought I better record, because I loved it. I just thought it was the coolest thing. It was like a thank you, you know, because my wife gave me bad news. I'm still able to put the love into the ice and affect it in some means or some way. And I just thought I'd I'd add this to the other videos. I have no idea what I'm going to do with this. But, you know, I just thought it's cool, man. Check it out, you know, like, to be able to effectively affect the ice and know. To me, it feels like I know something. Masaru Emoto had said that anyway. That's why they went for the clearest, crystallest of the cleanest water on the tops of the mountains that hadn't been affected at all. There's something going on here. There's something going on with what he does. And all I can say is thank you and God bless, and I will continue on this, no matter where I end up, and see if I can continue affecting this year after year on different methods of levels. Anyway, God bless.
It's June 9th. I haven't done any of this for a few months now. I've been working, things, distractions. But here the icicle is. And I can still awake them. There was one I had a few days ago. If I really concentrate an enormous amount of energy, of emotion, love in particular, then I get icicles. If I don't get icicles. I know that there are certain levels of that people can reproduce these. I don't get icicles until I put love into the water, an enormous amount of energy and focus.
Which is why I believe is an extension of sciences, most notably as pseudosciences not taken seriously, like the memory water experiment by Jacques Benifical, who was at the center of a major international controversy in 1988 when he published a paper in a prestigious scientific journal, Nature, describing the action of the very high dilutions of anti-IgE antibody on the degranulation of human basophils, finding which seemed to support the concept of homeopathy.
That the more a medicine is diluted, the more effective it becomes. To make their remedies, their drugs are repeatedly diluted in water and shaken in a special way. Often the medicines are so dilute they end up as little more than water. So why on earth did Benveniste think it worth investigating?
The story is the following. There was an MD in my lab who was doing classical research also. And once he told me that he was an homeopathic doctor. And I said, fine. Then he came back and he said, do you mind if I try to dilute some of our reagents and see if they do something on cells? And I remember vividly, that was 1982 or 83, that I told him, okay, look, do it, but this is what's going to do nothing.
But puzzlingly, the researchers' initial tests showed an effect. So Benveniste put one of his best technicians onto it, Elizabeth Davenor. She was skilled in a technique developed by Benveniste himself, using an allergen, like this anti-serum, to test people's blood for allergies. So Benveniste asked her to dilute the anti-serum in exactly the way homeopaths make their remedies, by successive dilutions in water, interspersed by vigorous shaking. The shaking, say homeopaths, energizes the water. But as at each stage the solution is diluted by a factor of 10, after the second dilution it's 100 times weaker, and 1 billion by the 9th. In fact, above the 20th there's literally nothing left of the original starting substance. Benveniste then asked for the highest dilutions to be added to the blood samples. If someone's allergic, particular blood cells called basophils will explode or degranulate on contact with an allergen, releasing histamine. But now that the allergen had been so highly diluted, Benveniste was sure his top assistant would see nothing. But astonishingly, she recorded almost as many cells degranulated by the homeopathic dilutions as by the original full-strength allergen.
I had the feeling of setting the foot in completely unknown that was so strange that I couldn't even envision what was going on. We know that there is nothing that can make basophils degranulate by themselves. And therefore, if they were degranulating, if they were disappearing, is that something specific happened to them. but this something specific was water, and this was flabbergasting.
Unable to ignore such extraordinary results that his natural scientific curiosity aroused, Benveniste ordered an in-depth program of research to get to the bottom of it all.
After 2 or 3 years of experiments, we reached the conclusion we could indeed obtain specific biological activity with a trigger that had been diluted billion times, for example. So there was no possibility that any molecule could survive in this solution. Therefore, we had to envision the fact that everything was going on as if water was capable of memorizing the molecule it had seen at the beginning of the dilution. And billions of dilution after still knew with some process that it had seen that molecule. And hence was coined the expression, the memory of water.
In 1989, the prospect of a water fuel age foretold by Jules Verne over a century ago came into sharp focus with the announcement of a startling discovery at the University of Utah. Two respected chemists, Dr. Martin Fleischmann and Dr. Stanley Pons, announced that they had achieved the unthinkable, an inexhaustible source of energy that they could demonstrate with a simple electrochemical
Basically, we've
cell.
established a sustained nuclear fusion reaction by means which are considerably simpler than conventional techniques.
They claimed that they had discovered a heretofore unknown nuclear-like reaction that would make water a powerful fuel for the future. It became known as cold fusion because it apparently delivered fusion energy like that produced in the sun or by hydrogen bombs. Yet not at millions of degrees, but much closer to room temperatures. Moreover, it emitted no deadly radiation. Ironically, the press conference came less than 12 hours before the Exxon Valdez ran aground off the coast of Alaska, spilling millions of gallons of oil into pristine waters. It is now a decade later, with a world so desperate for new sources of clean energy. What happened to the promise of cold fusion? It was a big story then, making headlines around the world. But all of a sudden, it died out, and we were told that it was just another false
like
promise.
cold fusion that blew the minds of many, at first only to be thrown aside because the science was found that they could not duplicate for skeptics, but could for open-minded others. What was the factor here? Why is it these experiments derived from water could be affected in such a way, to work sometimes and not at other times, or at all for some others? My understanding in water being blessed in the Catholic tradition requires only a nun to transport the holy and blessed water, and in doing so is not allowed to carry any thought. Do you believe it may be possible some truth and tradition of why has been lost to us commoners? That we do not need a priest or any of holy to bless water? To bless water, you just need unconditional, immense, overwhelming, focused love.
Or observing which slit it went through meant it only went through one, not both. The electron decided to act differently, as though it was aware it was being watched. And it was here that physicists stepped forever into the strange, never world of quantum events. What is matter? Marbles or waves? And waves of what? And what does an observer have to do with any of this? The observer collapsed the wave function.
Perhaps that is why sometimes the scientific existence, where we end up disproving and calling some of these pseudoscience, the answer is simple. If you are a non-believer, it simply will not work. The thought brings emotion, and when certain people suddenly disprove this, they sabotage the same result that were once positive over and over for hundreds of these before tests for over 3 years. Suddenly they stop working when skeptics bring their unholy negative thoughts. Is it possible that these other sciences are being affected unknowingly by the very thoughts and intense emotions of those researchers? I do not know, but I do know that you and I can duplicate this continually with the ice trays up to 100% of the time by focused, intense, positive emotion. and I have found that needed to be shared and tried by others, hopefully. I would like to end this in thought. People are scared of change. When Galileo asked people, come look into my telescope and see what mysteries exist, many would not. It is too much for some minds that they may be wrong in their aspects of pride or the reality, or it is just too much to bear, too much against the stability of an illusion given that we really have an understanding of so much. We are at a pivotal moment in mankind's existence where change is dependent on those who would free their shackles of fear and embrace an understanding that we finally understand, we really know that we know almost nothing. Bless you and all those your heart touches.